Good morning. I'm going to call to order the April 28th, 2023 meeting of the Michigan State Capitol Commission. I'd like to ask the Secretary to call the attendance, please.
Chair Candler?
Here.
Vice Chair Bauer?
Here.
Mr. Bowman?
Here.
Mr. Bolin? Mr. Brown?
Here.
Mr. Oberlin?
Here.
Five members are present.
Madam Secretary, I move that Commissioner Bolin be temporarily excused. I think he's going to appear here in a minute. So. The next thing on our agenda, kind of housekeeping matter, is we have polled the members of the commission, and the best date for all of us for the next meeting would be June 22nd at 11 a.m. Is that still good with everybody?
The 12th.
I mean, 12, sorry. No.
That's the Secretary's mistake on the agenda.
It's June 12th, yeah. That's right.
June 12th.
I knew that. I shouldn't have read it. I should have just, silly. Any problem? Everybody good with that? All right. So the next meeting will be on the 12th at 11 o'clock. The next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. Are there any questions? Everybody had a chance to look at them and read them? Anybody have any questions, concerns, corrections, edits? Can we have a motion to approve the minutes for the February 27th meeting?
I would so move.
Is there support?
Support.
Moved and supported. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? The minutes are approved. Now we get back down to the informational portion of our agenda, and the first item will be the report on the underground maintenance facility. And we're fortunate today to have Mr. Chad Clark from Chrisman here. So, Chad, you want to come up and give us an update?
Good morning.
Morning.
Happy Friday. I think I'll be pretty brief because everything on the garage, on the maintenance garage, is going really well. I'll start on the interior and work my way to the exterior. On the south portion of the garage, we have a small office space. Drywall is just got finished, and the painter will be here Monday to prime and first coat, and then we'll put it in the ceiling grid, and that'll allow for the mechanical, electrical, plumbing infrastructure to start inside the office portion. Moving my way out to the garage proper, the mechanical, electrical, plumbing infrastructure has been going according to plan, and that will be painted out. The interior of the garage, not only the office, but the garage proper will be painted out next week. And that's really the happenings on the inside. Going to the exterior, the waterproofing of the structural lid is complete, and the backfill operation will start next week, followed by backfill for sand, subgrade underneath, concrete walks, and that sort of hardscapes will start. The other big thing that's going to start, weather dependent, early next week is the masonry on the big retaining wall there. And it's going to take probably the month of May to get all that masonry complete. Again, that's a very weather dependent activity. But we're going to see the exterior of the garage really take shape throughout the month of May and into June. Overall, the project is tracking on budget and slightly ahead of schedule. We believe we'll be all wrapped up latter part of June. I'll take any questions.
I just, when I come to work every day, I walk by there and then right outside my window in my office, this is the top of the, and I'm just amazed at the progress you folks are making. It's been stunning as far as I'm concerned. So thank you for the job you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Things are going, as you said, a little bit ahead of schedule. Are there any particular problems, anything that's most difficult about this job or anything?
The critical path, no problems. We've been hitting all of our marks, knock on wood, and no foreseen material issues, which is sometimes a problem these days. The critical path was getting the structure complete, and Chrisman Constructors did a great job on that, and yeah, it's been going really well.
Good, thanks. I appreciate your work.
Thank you.
Okay, now we'll go to Rob Blackshaw, Executive Director, who is his update on capital facilities projects.
Good morning, Commissioners. I know that we've been focused on a lot of other issues like security, but let me tell you, there's been a lot of activity going on besides that, and I'll just share some of those highlights with you today. Some of the information you're already aware of, but some of them, there's updates to it on some of the projects that are going on. So I'll start with the Senate lighting project. As you're aware, over the holidays and even spring break, we took the Senate lighting, which were the old style lamps that were really hot and damaged the surfaces around them, and upgraded those to LEDs. We have completed that project and everything went very well, although we did find that we are going to need to upgrade the actual software lighting system because we need to have the capability of dimming because they do show bright in some areas. So where they're directed to more specifically, if a senator were to come up and speak, it's going to feel like they're being testified because sometimes the light shines right in their face. So in order to get rid of that, we've added some gels and dimming systems, and when that's in, it'll give the the Senate TV team the opportunity for more flexibility and produce a better product. Once that's complete, we will start the conversation with the House television team, which is, Dave Koskin and Dave Smith. They've been watching everything that we're doing, and then we will go ahead and plan to remove all those lights that, number one, again, aren't available, but they damage the surfaces in the House chamber, and upgrade those with the same LED lighting and system as well. I don't have a time frame for that, but if we start the conversations now, this is something that we could do around Christmas time of 2023 to change those out. But again, I will have a lot more conversations with you before we move forward on that. The third floor toilet rooms, per our last update, I mentioned that we'll be shutting down the third floor toilet rooms to route out a vertical coagulated pipe. This is a pipe that's had buildup, could be 50 years old, could be 140 years old. We're not sure how old the piping actually is. But to route that out and to save the historic fabric, we will route that out and then put in a fiberglass sleeve from the third floor all the way to the sub-basement. That will give it the structural integrity to last for another 50 years without having to tear the walls and the plaster apart. But fixing it in place is definitely, will remedy the situation and not damage any of the historic fabric. We do anticipate this work starting in the middle of June, and it will take about two months to complete. So we're thinking in the end of June to Labor Day at the latest is a pretty wide time frame, but we do believe we'll be able to get everything done within that time frame. There'll also be signage put in place to direct folks who ever use the public toilet rooms on 3 to go down to the ground floor, because we have plenty of restrooms now on Heritage Hall and the ground floor to take care of people's needs. The big project that I've been talking about for quite a while is getting ready to start, and that is the decorative painting project. Starting on the first week of June, we'll start installing a scaffolding system on the entire interior of the rotunda and the dome. It'll be some scaffolding on the ground floor rotunda, but you'll really start seeing the effects of it on the glass floor of the rotunda, which will basically be shut down to the general public. When you get up to second floor, third floor, fourth floor, you will be able to walk around it. There'll be 3.5 to 4 foot paths on the rotunda grading. You'll be able to see the rotunda scaffolding all the way up. Prior to the scaffolding install, though, we're going to be removing the glass to the flag cases on the first floor of the rotunda. Those haven't been removed since the restoration. I've coordinated with Matt Van Acker, who oversees the Civil War Battle Flag Program, and we will remove all 80 flags and staffs, have those cleaned and prepared to be put back in a year later. We're just going to leave them out for the duration of this project. But that glass will be removed, and we'll create a storage space on the first floor west wing behind some safe walls while we're doing that project too. So we're able to take advantage of some projects that we typically wouldn't, but this is allowing for us to do that. Again, once the scaffolding is up, we'll start the project by updating and replacing a dry fire system in the dome. So the dry fire system in the dome, since it is more temperature sensitive, it's never filled with water until it's needed. That way, if there's a heavy fluctuation of temperatures on the outside, a sensor will go off, then fill the piping, then disperse water if necessary. We do have some leaks on there, and we're going to update the fire sprinkler heads while we're up there too. And again, these heads are now out of date, but we'll update those with code compliant fixtures coming to the project. Additionally, on the 6th floor, we call it the colonnade level. Those are the real tall, thin windows you see around the drum of the dome. We're going to be installing a UV-protected film on there to help reduce the UV rays that come through the windows and shine onto the decorative surfaces as well as the allegorical paintings. During the CIU project, or the capital infrastructure upgrade, we were doing studies, and it was an August morning, there was a 50-degree differential on the surface temperature from morning to evening. So you can only imagine how the decorative surfaces, the paintings, were reacting with the expansion and contraction of the tin or the plaster and the different types of surfaces on there. So by putting this UV protected film on there, the hope is to reduce that expansion and contraction. That'll also give us time to really evaluate. I know that our architectural and our design build team has really looked into what if we replace those windows altogether with something a lot more safer. We know that's more of a long-term project, so we're continuing with the investigation of that. But for this project, we'll put the film on there, and then we can always go back the next time we put scaffolding on the exterior or the interior of the dome, if necessary. Upon completion of that piece of the project, then we'll start our decorative surface painting and cleaning to the surfaces that had not been touched in over 30 years. I know it sounds like a long time, but I do remember I was here on my first tour of duty. I tell everybody climbing the scaffolding and looking the allegories in the face, and that was quite a long time ago. Matter of fact, I had hair then. So it tells you how long ago that was. Yes. Anyway, this project's forecasted to take 8 to 10 months. I'll be giving regular updates on this. We'll be having a lot of media content. I have been starting to have a conversation with a former commission member, John Truscott. He is going to help us with Media Blast and help us put together how do we talk about and display what we're going to do, how do we properly do it while we're doing the project, and then at the end of the project, how do we wrap it up? And we'll put signage in place and little video clips along the way and share all that information with folks. A matter of fact, in lieu of me sending a memo to everyone's office, we're going to create a one-page flyer this year with pictures, and it's going to basically say coming soon, because a picture does tell 1,000 words, and we could say more than 1,000 words to explain what we're going to do up there. But when you see pictures of flaked paint way up in the domes that you can't see from down here, but when you're up there, it looks like it's falling apart. So these are things that will illustrate and really help people understand why we're shutting the interior of the dome down and what we're really starting to accomplish. Matter of fact, this project is so important, we started planning this 10 years ago. And what I mean by that, we did a decorative painting evaluation, and they came in and evaluated all the decorative surfaces and say, yes, there's a lot of work to be done. But prior to that, the commission that before you decided to, hey, let's look at the exterior and make sure that that's cleaned up prior to getting on the inside, because we know whatever the temperature and humidity is on the outside basically transfers into the building. So we wanted to make sure that we reduce the humidity and reduce the temperatures to get it inside. That was something more controllable. So we went through our exterior project. When that was done, we decided, hey, there's a lot of other equipment that needs to be updated, and we had engineers come in to evaluate our existing HVAC systems. Lo and behold, we had the CIU project that we're all aware of that took 5 years to complete. And now that that's all complete and we have all of our equipment in place, we are now making full circle and going back to that point of taking care of the decorative surfaces into this building. I know you already know this, but I always think it's worth mentioning. This is why we're a National Historic Landmark, the decorative surfaces in this building. Anyone who comes in here and gets to the rotunda and looks up really sees the grandeur of all these decorative surfaces, and it really is a mark of how good this building is. For us not to address these issues, we wouldn't be good stewards of the building if we didn't do it. So I mention this too because we're all very proud to work on this project. All the contractors and all the folks who work for me are passionate and can't wait to get to this project because it really is a project of a lifetime, as I still shine about being a part of that 30 years ago. That's all I have for other projects. There are a few other things going on, but those are the highlights that I wanted to bring to everyone's attention today. Any questions?
I apologize for my tardiness. My phone, I got lost my phone.
But you were excused temporarily till you got here, so you're here now. You're welcome. I had just one comment to make when you mentioned the surfaces. Back when we started the restoration, we had a consultant in here, Darla Olson, who does, well, she did do conservation work all over the country, in fact, all over the world. And she said probably this Capitol building might be the finest example of interior Victorian-style decoration of any public building in the U.S. So, I mean, that's from somebody who's been around and looked at a lot of buildings all over the world. So, you're right, it's really pretty unique, pretty exceptional. Any other questions or comments?
Dan?
Dan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Rob, I want to thank you. I know you mentioned the Senate chamber lighting upgrade. That was a really smooth process, and then you were quick to adjust to the overwhelming brightness provided by the new LEDs, and I think it looks really great. I just had a question about the cover of the, I don't know what you call it, the light covers that were supposed to be powder coated. Is there a plan to upgrade that so it isn't black?
Yes, we have, I call them top hats, because that's what it looks like on there. But those extensions are already on order and already being powder coated. We'll have another set. Then we'll take that set off and just replace them with new ones that will match and blend in a lot better. So that is in process.
Thank you very much.
Commissioner Bauer?
You know, lately I've been talking to a lot of people, because I'm old and they're old people too, but who talk about, though, when there was no money to do anything, when there wasn't we didn't value the Capitol, perhaps, well, we know that. So I just have to comment how proud I am of what we're doing, what we've done for the last 20, 30 years. But I think we owe gratitude to the governors and the legislatures over the years who began to value this Capitol and the historic value and the value to the people of our state and appropriated the money to do everything. So I just think I commend everyone, and you, Rob, and your staff for how you love this building, and we should just be very proud of what we're doing, or I am in my small role here, so that people, generations to come, will have this building. So thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Just a quick comment and to follow up on what you just said, and then a question. My first time in this building was 1985, and I still tell people it was an embarrassment that this was our state capitol building. And to look at it now, to have my office in this building is amazing. It is something very much to be proud of, and I value that every day. And I tell people, if you work here, look around you every day, because you should be proud where you're working.
That's right.
The question I had, I've not been involved in the Rotund project. As far as the decorative painting, is that going to be done by our decorative painters, or is there a special group that comes in to do that?
There's a special group. The John Canning Company is a painting company that's been affiliated with this building for 30 years. John Canning himself was on this project during the restoration project, and Dave Riccio, who oversees his operation now, will bring in a team of folks. We also have plaster experts, which is the company called Building Conservation and Associates. They'll be working real closely with Chrisman and Quinn Evans on this project. We are incorporating our own decorative painters, though. They'll be doing a lot of the inspections, which is a piece of the construction management that we have not really done before, but we do have staff that has a very critical eye, and they catch things that I wouldn't see, or even some other folks. So we do have very talented folks, and we will be utilizing them for these types of projects moving forward.
Any other questions or comments? I'm going to make another gratuitous comment myself, but you talked about when you first came here. I came to work in the state capitol in 1972, and they just were putting in the overfloors. And guess what company was doing it? It was Chrisman Company. So when we started the restoration project, and Dick Frank was the architect of the Capitol, they talked about hiring Chrisman. I said, oh man, why do we want to hire them? Look at the other ones that did all this. And Dick Frank said, remember, Bill, that wasn't their idea. They got hired to do that. I said, okay, good point. And of course, we're very happy we have gone with Chrisman, because they've done a great job and been tremendous to work with. This is not, I'm sure, not the easiest venue in which to work, working around everything that goes on in this building, and they've done a great job of that. I want to move on to another part of the agenda now. As most of you know, we've been talking for some time now about, the commission has, about issues of securing the building. And we've kind of gone along two different tracks that we have to deal with. One is the issue of what is the policy going to be, and the second one is what's the installation to enforce that policy. So we've had Commissioner Bowman kind of taking a look at what the policies might be. And John, would you want to give us a little bit of a background of what you've been looking at and what you're working on?
Sure. The Michigan Capitol Building is the most important public building in the state of Michigan, and it is our responsibility as commissioners to do everything we can to make it safe and secure for the many, many visitors that we have each year and for the many people who work here on a daily basis. With the lead of the chair, we have been looking at technology that will allow us to identify weapons to keep them from being brought into the Capitol building. We're also looking at adopting a policy that would prohibit the firearms in the Capitol building. The idea would be that this policy would go into effect at the same time that we have the technology available to identify those firearms or weapons. We do have we have an opinion from the Attorney General that we have the authority to enact such a policy. We are looking at what the content of that would look like, and we're looking at the Michigan Supreme Court has adopted a policy that would that does, in fact, prohibit weapons in the courts, and we're looking at that as a model. As we go forward, we'll have language to share with everyone as to the content of that policy, but we just wanted to let you know that we are looking at that, and it is a two-track process to have the technology that would allow us to identify those weapons and a policy that would actually prohibit them.
Any questions or comments or anything on that topic? Good. Thanks, John. Now, the other part of this whole process is the technology and the installation to enforce that, the policy that we're talking about. I know the House, and we've been working with the House and Senate on this, and Rob has headed up our research and done quite a bit of due diligence and research and put together some important information for us on the technology that we need to pursue. So, Rob, you want to give us an update on that?
Thank you, I sure will. During the last commission meeting, I shared with you the research that's been done with different types of weapons detection systems. In fact, I even mentioned some other facilities and some of the equipment that they had. Standard magnetometers, pass-through weapons detection systems, X-ray machines, etc. I also mentioned then in the research that other state capitals all have some level of gun or weapons ban and require visitors to go through a screening process already. Additionally, at our last meeting, I mentioned that we work closely with Senate sergeants and administrative teams, House of Representative sergeants and House administrative teams, the Michigan State Police, Homeland Security, TSA, the Army Corps of Engineers, the Michigan State Court Security Team, and I even had many conversations and a visit with the Oxford School Security Team and Administration. The last one mentioned was a pretty interesting meeting, to say the least. But they've really done a lot of upgrades, and I was pretty impressed with what they've done. We even visited the Wayne County government buildings in Detroit with the House and the Senate and Michigan State Police. And in the end, our numerous meetings and all different types of entities that I just mentioned, there were many discussions on how to handle the screening process in the buildings, and more specifically, how do we handle it in the Capitol building itself. I am ready to make some recommendations on, one, what type of equipment we need here at the Capitol building, where the equipment shall be placed to include secondary screening, and I'll talk about that a little bit more. And three, I'll finish by talking about a software program that we can add to our current camera system that'll help detect weapons once they're exposed interior and on the exterior of the building. All these measures in the end will increase our security and decrease the risk of having any event happening here at the Capitol, which makes it a safer place to be, which I think is what we all are looking to do. I left a reference map in front of you, and if you'd like to pick that up, I can walk through each area and explain a little bit more detail what I have planned for us, or proposed for us to do, excuse me. I'll start with the ground floor east wing. This is the main entrance to the Capitol. It's the main public access to the building from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. I recommend under the letter A in the very beginning, putting a pass-through weapons detection system there. You'll see that the two little boxes represent towers as you would walk through. That's the detection area. The blue areas, which are with the letter C, indicate where Michigan State Police, House Sergeant, Senate Sergeant, or security personnel will be in place. If you go through the weapons detection system and there's a need for secondary inspection. Now, secondary inspection could be, we know that sometimes backpacks are full of materials that need to have additional inspection. We know laptops sometimes set off equipment that need additional inspection. If they're allowable, we'll take the folks on this wing, take it into one of the old tour guide orientation rooms, which is E20 behind the main elevator. This gets the secondary inspection out of the traffic flow, therefore it won't have a bottleneck if there's an issue. And then it gives the secondary folks, more specifically the Michigan State Police, the opportunity to inspect what other stuff is in there. If it is something that they don't want to bring in, then we'll just basically ask them to leave the building at this point, but that's more of a procedural policy issue. If you look at the ground floor south wing now, this is an access point by swipe card only, and this is a big entrance for legislators and legislative staff. Again, we will, where it has the yellow A, we will put a pass-through weapons detection system in place there. There will be a Senate Sergeant sitting at a desk. And for secondary inspections, if necessary, we will have them with a wand, like you've seen at a ball game or other places where they'll wand the person over their belt buckle to see if there's any additional metal items on there or something that set the weapons detection system off. If we go to the ground floor north wing, this is the same situation. This is a swipe card access mainly for House staff and House legislators. There'll be a pass-through weapons detection right inside the main double doors. And again, the wands will be used for secondary inspection by House staff, House sergeants, and they will have a desk or a station put in place indicated by the blue highlight with the letter C on it. As far as the Capitol goes, the west entrance is now exit only, and we were going to increase our cameras there to make sure that it monitors that situation. But this is also the pass-through to Heritage Hall. So if we take this page and turn to the next page, please, which is the layout of Heritage Hall. The Heritage Hall north entrance is our main entrance for all tours and tour groups, or the majority of. We also have lots of folks coming in here for events, because as you know, Heritage Hall, we've really blown the doors off and we're booked a year out, so it is getting used every single day by a lot of people. Anyway, when we come in there, I suggest that we lock these middle section and the western doors to make them exit only, and then we leave the east doors open as indicated by the highlight, and that's where we'll have a pass-through weapons detection system. Again, you'll see the blue highlights with the letter C there. That is for Michigan State Police in their locations and desks. I recommend an X-ray machine for secondary inspections here indicated in the southwest corner of the vestibule. And again, there is a small security office in case we want to get someone out of the general public if they're being a little loud or obnoxious. We can get them out of the general traffic and they can have their conversation with the Michigan State Police officers at that point. The only print I don't have available today is the North Annex. This is an area that's still being studied closely, but after many conversations and more importantly, the Michigan State Police made the recommendation to have a standard magnetometer put in place there. Now, mind you, this is an area where caterers, contractors all come in, and we know when an elevator inspector or an elevator contractor comes in, he's going to have a bag of tools. They're all going to be metal, so there's going to have to be hand inspections. So we want them to put their bags to the side while it's being hand inspected. The folks will walk through the magnetometer to make sure there's no other weapons or anything else on them. While we go through that, it'll be a little bit of a slower pace, but we know that most of the folks that go through there will have the understanding that, hey, you're going to bring a bag of tools into the building, you're going to be inspected. It will not be atypical for what they experience at other buildings. The other thing is we are increasing security on the roster for this. I know I'm getting to a little policy piece, but I think it's definitely worth mentioning at this entrance. When we have caterers and contractors, for instance, I'll use Coney Elevator, who is our service provider for elevators. We'll ask them their roster of service providers, have their driver's license and their photos available, so when they come there, if they aren't registered on our list, they're not getting in the building. This prevents anyone from putting on a uniform, pretending to have a uniform, and getting in the building with a bag of tools that doesn't need to be in here. So there's certain precautions we'll take there to increase the security, which is a little bit more than we'll do for the general public, the legislators, the legislative staff, and other folks in the building. Michigan State Police Officer will also be in place monitoring that area for contractors, basically from 8 to 5. But if someone shows up before, they say, we'll hold them in place, call them, and they'll send someone down before and or after hours to take care of that situation. The last thing I wanted to talk about was the software upgrade to the camera systems that we currently have. There's a human-verified protective gun detection and situational awareness software. I know it's a lot of words, but that'll integrate into our digital security cameras. Basically, this software can detect weapons on the Capitol grounds and with select cameras in the common areas of the Capitol building. So if someone's on the grounds and they brandish a weapon or they see a weapon, this camera will pick it up. This company also has a central control operator who monitors it in addition to us, so there's double redundancy, but it's a human interaction and human monitoring. So we're not just relying on the software, but there'll be humans monitoring as well. If an alarm goes off, they will make initial calls to our central control, security personnel, whatever decision tree or organizational tree that we ask them to call, they can make an initial call. So we'll know before someone even comes to the front doors if they have a weapon on them or not. Additionally, I have conversations with Commissioner Bolin and then Doug Simon of the House and then the sergeants. We can position some of our exterior cameras to start looking at the front of their buildings, so the front entrance of their buildings. And with this software installed, we can also give them an alert prior to someone approaching their building if a gun has been detected on their software system. Oxford Schools has a pass-through weapons detection system, and they have the software that I'm talking about. And when I went down to visit, it was amazing. They had an officer go out just for demonstration, pulled a weapon out of his car, kept it close to his vest. The camera system picked it up. Their cameras called the desk while I was sitting there. We knew before this person came to the door what was going to happen. He came in and then they went through their procedures of what it was like to walk through a weapons detection system. I don't want to editorialize anything, but when you see it happen at Oxford Schools and something real happened there, it was nice to see they have such a good plan in place. So I look forward to putting a plan in place here for the Capitol building too before we have to experience something like that. That's all the questions and recommendations I have at this point. Any questions you have for
I
me?
have one comment to make. Again, everybody knows we've been working on this for some time, and it seems like an easy thing to just to decide that you're going to ban weapons. But as you can hear from listening to Rob's report, it's pretty complicated. And as you mentioned, we have to try to help make people feel safe here, but we also need people to be able to function here, to get in and out and function, and that's what we're working with. That's why it's important. Like, we're coordinating. Tim is not only here, Commissioner Bowen is not only here as a commissioner, but also handles security for the Senate side. Sergeant Preby back here and Doug Simons are working with stuff in the House. We have to coordinate with everybody who's using this building and try to make it workable for everybody. I'm not happy we have to do this, but it's a fact of life. So we're trying to develop a policy and a installation that makes it possible for us to function as normally as possible, but yet provide some level of security for people. So it's, as we move along here, and you think it seems like we're moving slowly, it's very complex, and it has to work for everybody. So we're doing our best to manage that. Commissioner Bauer?
No, I answered.
Oh, okay. Commissioner Brown?
Rob, I'm just curious, I like the plan that you've laid out. What staffing-wise, what do you know, when we were at City Hall in Detroit, they had basically at their pass-through area, they had 3 people. There was the initial check, then there was a person if there was an alarm set, and then there was a police officer who was available in case there was a problem. When setting this up, do you have any idea, staffing-wise, what we're going to need to monitor all of this?
I can't speak specific numbers for the House sergeants, the Senate sergeants, or Michigan State Police, but I do know Michigan State Police, they said they're getting ready to post for 10 more folks to help with this situation. So there'll be definitely a labor increase to monitor these areas. And I will ask Commissioner Bolin or Doug Simon to comment on the staffing needs for the House and Senate, because I'm not fully aware of what their additional needs will be, although I do know there will be some.
Mr. Bolin?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, please pardon my tardiness. Had a phone problem. I've been involved.
Anymore, right?
I don't have it, so it's not which is kind of good. Anyway, I've been involved in this building for a long time too. I came here in 1977 and worked on the original restoration and the ongoing restoration projects that we've had going for the last few decades. I will say just how proud I am of all those efforts, and I would echo Commissioner Bauer's comments about all the groups that appropriated money to this. And we all have something to be proud about as we walk into this building. But in my mind, nothing is more important than what we're doing right now. Making this building safe for the occupants and for the visitors. No matter how beautiful this building is, if we fail at that, we've done a huge injustice to the state and to the occupants of this building. So I applaud everybody who has worked on this in any regard. And to your answer, Mr. Clerk and Commissioner, we believe that on the Senate side, we would probably to adequately staff those areas and make sure that no one or three sergeants, however many are at each entrance, that they don't get burnt out, that we would probably have to have approximately 10 additional sergeants, not only for the Capitol, but for our buildings if we were to implement similar systems in our buildings as well. So we're sort of gearing up to that discussion of needing 10 along with what the state police were doing too. So, Mr. Chair, again, I commend you in your efforts of what you're doing here, what the other commissioners are doing, and you are absolutely right. This has been taking a good amount of efforts, but appropriately so. So thank you very much.
Any other questions, comments? Well, along these lines then, we had instructed at our last meeting that Rob come up with a proposal for an RFP to look for the installation we would need technology-wise in order to enforce a policy. So, Rob, you put together an RFP. You want to tell us a little bit about it and briefly? And it's several pages. You have to read it, but
Sure, no problem at all. The RFP is prepared to solicit bids for a pass-through style system, and that does list some of the details and requirements we need for the building. We can put that out to bid if approved by the commission this afternoon, and I can have bids brought back in 2 weeks. And then we can make a pretty quick evaluation because there aren't really a lot of vendors out there who do this type of system. There are a couple vendors that provide a really nice system that if it works out, that's the selection we'll make. But we'll see that as the bids come in.
any other questions? Mr. Bauer, I think you had a motion to make.
Yes, I would move that the commission give approval to issue the request for proposal for weapons detection systems for the Michigan State Capitol.
There's a second to the motion.
I support it.
Commissioner Bolin supports. Secretary, will you call the roll, please?
Chair Candler,
Yes.
Vice Chair Bauer,
Yes.
Mr. Bullman,
Yes.
Mr. Bolin,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Oberlin.
Yes.
We have 6 votes.
Motion prevails, and Rob, you'll go ahead and issue that RFP today, and it'll be out for a couple of weeks, and then we can evaluate the information we get and start moving ahead with implementing our plan.
Sounds great.
Next item is just other business. Any other business that we didn't have on the agenda that somebody wants to address? Mr. Brown?
Just something to look at briefly. When we went in through the last meeting, we set up that the passcode where the swipe cards are locked on the north and south entrances at 5 o'clock. We've had a couple instances in the House where they've perhaps have adjourned temporarily till 6:30 or 7 o'clock. And you have members coming back in, and so I did reach out to Rob, and we did extend the time period on several occasions, but that can be a problem at times, especially with the pace of sessions that we've been having here, where we've been here till 7, 8, 9 o'clock. So I don't know if there's something we can look at to make sure that, I can make it easier to reach out to Rob, or Rob doesn't have to even wait for me. We can figure something out that
Right, that's
make
one
that
of
a
the
little
things
smoother.
you mentioned. We have to make sure it's workable for everybody who's using this.
Exactly.
Yes, absolutely. Rob, you have a comment?
I do have one comment. I think that what we need to consider, since we know when session is in late, the east door is left unlocked and monitored, maybe we should follow suit with the north and south swipe access. It still remains swipe access only, but to stay in concert with what they're doing with the access at the front east door, I recommend that we just change the time for when there is a late session so the legislators can go out and come in those doors, because in the future they'll be monitored anyway with security personnel. But I think that alteration will help. So if there is a rally or an event or something going on out front that the legislator is very uncomfortable going through to get back in the building, they can still get in their respective entrances.
Commissioner Boland.
Thank you. And Rob, as you know, on the Senate side, on the south entrance, Rich, we put a sergeant station there. And so I think having access after that 5 o'clock on a swipe only would be helpful in late night sessions, but we already have a sergeant there, which also helps us out. So if we allow access after hours, we can also make sure that that sergeant remains on duty past their normal work hours for a late night session. So my recommendation to you would just be to get a station that you're going to need there anyway, and just get it there maybe a little earlier and see if that would help your situation.
Mr. Chairman, yes, thanks. Thank you, Tim. We are, at this point, looking at setting up something at the north entrance, just for that, and I think that would make a lot of sense. And I don't know, do we need to make any kind of a motion to adjust the procedure, or just assume that?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean, along the way, we're going to have to make several adjustments to make sure things work.
Right.
The main object is to make sure that we don't ruin the security ring. Again, any security system is only as strong as its weakest link, so we want to make sure we don't, make it too weak, but by the same token, we got to make it workable for
Right.
people.
I think, Mr. Chairman, part of the inconvenience of that north has been because of the construction going on. That makes them have to go way around to get into on the east side, so.
So Rob, you'll work with them and work that out. Yeah, all right, thanks. Any other business anybody wants to bring up?
I just have one comment.
Commissioner Bauer?
Thank you. I'm going to embarrass Valerie Marvin, but I just wanted people to know Val, as our historian, goes all around the state and talks to groups about the Capitol. And I happened to be at one of her presentations in South Haven a week or so ago about art in the Capitol. And of course, a beautifully presented slideshow. But the point of it is, many of the people in that room, 40 people probably, it was sponsored by the Historical Society, many of them hadn't been to the Capitol ever, and maybe a long, long, long time ago. They were just really blown away by the Capitol, the photo, the beauty of it. And a number of them said they really needed to make a trip back. But I think that it's important, whether it be virtual or in person, that we are, I'm spoiled. I live 1.5 miles from the Capitol, so I drive by it and I had the chance to work here. But many people don't. And so anytime we can really let the people of Michigan outside of an easy commute area, distance, realize what a beautiful, it is the people's house and what a beautiful building it is. But I wanted to thank and acknowledge Val, because, that's no small thing to drive all over the state of Michigan and do presentations. So we're very lucky as part of our outreach effort.
Absolutely, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Is that all you want to say?
Well, I didn't prepare a speech, but it's wonderful that South Haven was willing to host a program, and it's been wonderful for me to see, as the person who gets this opportunity, all of the communities, whether it's through historical societies or libraries or private clubs, it's wonderful to see people's interest and their desire to learn more about the Capitol. And I also want to thank Rob as director for making that possible, because there are many days when I am on the road. So it's all part of a bigger team effort, but it's a great privilege to be able to be a part of that.
You do a great job. We all appreciate it. Thanks so much. Any other comments, questions, any other issues? If not, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Oh, wait a sec, I'm sorry. Anybody from the public here wants to comment first before we adjourn? I don't think we have anybody, but I should ask. I don't see, okay, now I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Bowen moves, there's support? Support. Mr. Bauer supports. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.